Keyshawn McComb. It is currently Saturday, December 21st, 11:59 p.m. And in a couple seconds, it will be Sunday, December 22nd, 2024. About 9 or 10 more days into the new year, and here we are, a year of 2025. A lot has changed. I've grown so many ways in these past couple years, and I've been blessed. God has already written my story in many, many ways. Many ways that I can never describe to just one individual. Many ways where sometimes words are not even a way to even describe it. Feelings and action is probably the best way to go about it. Feelings that are just impossible to almost articulate, but in this world of, walking through God and with God, nothing's impossible. I got in this game when I was about 18, 17, the year of 2020, sort of 2020, really fully get into it, 2021, 4 or 5 years later, here we are. And there's a lot that I've learned about myself in many, many ways, from being at my absolute lowest, from not having dog shit, from just having the urge to figure it out, being able to not point the blame in terms of how I was raised, how I grew up, what my mom done, how she raised us. More than blessed to experience everything that she's done for us. And it gives me chills to talk about it, because the reality of it is, we all come from different backgrounds, right? I grew up from seeing a lot of different things, from an alcoholic dad, from not having a dad, from my mom working her ass off, from her crying, from me being very, very low and depressed in terms of just as a human being and not really understanding how to vocally and emotionally control my feelings and staying bottled up. And these are things that I've learned throughout all this journey, right? And I want to be vulnerable and open up as much as I can and more as I grow, as I become a man who I am today. But all those things that have happened leading up to where I am today has allowed me to get to where I am today. And I'm shooting this video because the current position that I'm currently in, and this is me being 100% vulnerable, right? I'm not where I want to be in any sort of way. I'm along the way, I'm blessed to be where I am, but looking back on how I got here and looking back what it took in terms, my bad guys, I got cut off, but in terms of, like I was mentioning, like what it took to get here, it was a bumpy road. But the reality of all this is, right, it was never something that was all a coincidence to me. Like, a lot of this stuff has always been written down in a way, or a thought that I've had way before it all had started. So when it does happen, when I do have these highs, I do have these big wins, and I do have these big lows, it's never one of those things where I'm constantly just looking at it as like, dang, this sucks, like, can my life be any worse? Maybe that was me when I first got started, but then as I realized, as I gradually got more into this in terms of taking that other route that most wouldn't be willing to take, I realized what was going to come with it. And I realized that first step that I took in terms of knowing that life, in terms of the traditional life, wasn't for me, I knew right then and there and accepted, like, hey, this isn't going to be easy. This is why most don't do it. So whatever happens, and God's let you down this route and this road for a reason. Like I said, I'm nowhere where I want to be, but I'm very blessed to be where I am, right? And it becomes points of time where, as an individual, you have to be able to acknowledge and be conscious of a lot of things, because a lot of people at a higher level of where I am, right, that's making the more money, that's more successful than I am. What I've realized, and I'm just an observer of just people in general, is most make the money but are not very conscious in a way where they're not actually understanding themselves. Right? They have the skills, they're brilliant in terms of making a business, scaling it to however big and making the money and having a certain digit in their bank account. But as far as being conscious in terms of things within yourself internally, not anything materialistic, because the thing about materialistic, yeah, it's a joy, it's a fun, it's a toy to have, but it's all disposable at the end of the day. And that's why even in the beginning, that's never been something I've been extremely drawn to. So like when I would blow a lot of my money, it wouldn't be towards my clothes, fashion, or anything like that. Yeah, my fashion's different than what it was when I was in middle school, because I can afford clothes. But even then, like, my fashion isn't anything where I'm rocking designer. I generally just put things on and I make it happen. I think being fit helps, but also I have taste and style to myself, and I like creating clothes and being clothes, I like putting clothes on that feels good to me and that looks good, and that's just the reality of it, right? But it's never been something where it's like I have to have the crazy watch, I have to have the Van Cleefs, it was never that. And when I look back on it, and it's like, damn, I'll be honest, I'm terrible. I was terrible, and I still am in a way with money management. Like, that's just not something we were taught. So as I gradually get into this game, as I got more mature, I started to realize, like, okay, that is something that, like I said, I can't play with. I have to be clear on it. And I'm conscious of the shit I'm doing, right? Even now, I'm conscious of the money I spend, but it's like, realistically, I look at it and I'm like, for what? Like, okay, not for what in terms of the purchase I make, but it's like, dude, you don't even know your numbers fully yet. And that's kind of what's caused me to be like, all right, let me make sure, let me get really, really on top of it. Because I've been on top of it, but I haven't been really on top like I should be. And right. And throughout it all, of being conscious through all of my decisions that I'm making, doing it, it's like, dude, you know what you're doing. You need to be able to just stay on top of this, and you need to make it happen. And that's just with a lot of things that I'm doing in terms of something I deal with personally, is just procrastination. Like, yeah, I mean, I live okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm blessed, like I said. But the reality of it is, dude, you ask yourself, why aren't you like further out? And I think everything, I don't question it, because God puts me through whatever he puts me through. And if some things are going to take longer than others, like if I should have been where I thought I would have been in 4 or 5 years, and I'm not, so be it. Like, the reality of it is, maybe I failed so many times and the lesson's been there, but I've repeated the same failure. And you know, it's going to take me get to a certain point of time where it's going to be like, hey, like, dude, you're conscious of what you're doing. You need to just make the switch. You need to do the opposite. And it's not really making a huge change. It's just making little tweaks, because I've built up the foundation in terms of the beginning stages of whether it's all started. So it's not like I'm rebuilding from scratch, but it's more as in being able to change the little things that got me here, now trying to get to the next level, being able to change those, because what worked then may not work now. And that's what I have to understand. What worked then may not work now. And that is exactly what I'm starting to realize even more to this day. People around me, successful people around me, they're not doing the same thing they were doing at 10, 50, 20, 30K to get to 100, 2, 3, 400K. They're not doing the same thing. And me as an observer seeing that, I sit back and I have friends around me that are like, I've been able to see what they've done. And I look back and I'm like, what are they doing that I'm not? And there's a lot of different things that they're doing differently that I'm not. And I'm conscious of it. That's the part where I'm just like, dude, you're so conscious around how you move, who you surround yourself around, how you observe people, how people move. You have to be able to understand at points of time, like, what you may be doing, it's working to an extent. But like, Key, how do you get to that second part of you, the highest part of you, to get to that next part where you know you should be already there or capable of doing? And a lot of it's God's timing, and God's put me through certain things. But even then, it's like, I know exactly how and why and when and where I should be doing it. And it's now. So I record this video because I'm going to look back in this video in the next 5 or 6 months, or even 12 months. And a lot of things will be different, because I've been just to the point, like I mentioned, I had signed an impulsive lease, and I did it because I felt like, you know, I've been traveling for so long, and I've gotten tired of my bullshit. I'm sick and I'm tired of my bullshit. Like, I am sick and I am tired of my bullshit. And I don't mean that on a mental level. I mean it in a way where I've shied away from sitting down and building again. I remember what it felt like to actually sit down and build. I remember the constant grind, no distractions, you know, no woman, no like mindlessly scrolling, none of that. I remember the time and what I felt in that time being. And over the past few years, I've just been traveling, and I forgot what that felt like. I forgot the state I was in and how things were going. Like, I'm great now, don't get me wrong, but I could be better. And I've gotten to that point where it's like, I coped for so long to say, oh, I can't settle down. Oh, I got commitment issues. No, the reality of it is you don't want to settle down. You don't have commitment issues. That's just a cope for you to not want to actually sit down, lock in, and build. And sometimes life forces us to calm down. And that's something that I just had to accept, that I had to kind of get in that stage, because I think you go through periods of life as an individual to grow to that next level. But in order to do that, you have to be able to settle yourself so you can pick up the ball and you can shoot. Because I feel like I was on the run trying to throw the ball and hoping someone would catch it. And I got to the point where it's like, I'm sick of my shit of doing it. Let me do exactly the opposite of what I don't want to do. And then sit down and actually shut up and work and do what you need to do and build. And if anything I trust, it's my gut. My gut's never let me down. I go with my intuition, my gut more than anything. But more importantly, I go with what God has in plan and what he has in store for me. And that's exactly what's led me here. So the next 6 months, just strictly just focus, laser focus on what I want to build and what I'm building. That truly means everything to me. Because that's the reality of how do I realistically get to that next level and tap into that next level of myself. And it's not just financially, it's mentally, it's spiritually, it's building more of a close relationship with the Lord. Like there's so much more than just the money, because the money is something that's going to come along the way. The money is something that can solve a lot of different things. It's a tool at the end of the day. But gradually learning myself as I get there, being constantly obsessed of what I do in my craft and becoming a better person. Because shit, it's so fucking easy to get caught up and distracted. I'm just on Instagram sometimes mindlessly scrolling. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You could be doing other shit. Like, stop. And I catch myself doing that. And it's sometimes I got to look up before I even pick up my phone. I'm like, is it that important? Absolutely not. Is it that important, like trying to look at my views? No, it's not. And I know that. Like, I'm very, very fucking conscious about all this shit. But the temptation of still wanting to do it is because it's what I'm used to doing. Knowing that I need to break that in order to really just shut up and sit down. It's like, okay, dude, like realistically, if you got to delete the fucking app, do so. If you got to cut your phone off, do so. Do whatever you need to do in order to make this happen, because you know exactly what it felt like to sit down and fucking build and what came with that. It got me here. And then I traveled, then I fucked around. Now I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, I'm tired of being in that little stagnant little place. What do I have to do now to get to that next part? And here's the season we're in. So I'll look back 6 months, 12 months from now, and I'm be in a completely different position. And if I'm not, I'm not going to point the finger at God. I'm not. It's me. At the end of the day, it's me. It is me. And the reason why if I'm not there is because it's me, because I'm hard-headed and I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I didn't take the steps that God gave me and he showed me. Like, at the end of the day, God has my story already written. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. It's up to me to actually take in what he gives me and move forward with it. I can't, like, that's the last thing I'm going to do as a man is point my fucking finger at anyone else. I take blame for why and where I am currently in my life, and that's the reality of it. Like, rather you want to admit it or not as an individual, bro, you are exactly where you are for a reason, and God placed you exactly where you are for a reason, and there's no question behind it. Anything negative that happens in my life, I can't view it in a negative way, because I look at it, I smile, and I'm like, God, if the God wants it that way, then so be it. There's no questions behind it. So I'll look in the next 6 months, 4 to 6 months, exactly why I pulled the trigger and made this crib happen. Like, why deck it out and just make it look pretty if I'm not going to make it worth it all, right? I've seen what can happen in a change of 4 or 5 years of sitting down and trying to figure this shit out. Now I can't continue to keep doing the same shit that got me here, because in order to get where I am now to where I really want to be, that shit is not going to cut it. That shit is not going to cut it. Can't keep doing the same shit to want different results. You got to do different shit to get different shit. You got to do different shit to get different results. And the minute you can realize that, in a minute you can be conscious about a lot of things. Like, I'm conscious in so many fucking ways. It's not even funny. Like, the way I move, the way I am, how I think, the pieces I see, the opportunities I see, everything. So, appreciate you guys watching this. It's about to be a hell of a run. It is about to be a hell of a year. Continue to grow my faith, get closer to God, closer every single day, and cut the fucking distractions. Like, I'd be damned to look back 6 months, 12 months, and this is still the same shit. Ugh, I'm not doing it. I'm not repeating the same shit each year. I'm not doing it because I know what I really can do. And I'm conscious of it. I'm not doing it. I'm not fucking doing it. See you guys in the next year. Peace.